The triumph of revolution and socialism in all countries is sure to come. The Albanian people, their party and government, tirelessly working for the building of socialism in their country, follow attentively and with keen vigilance the development of the present world situation. At the same time, they carry out a broad activity in the field of international relations in accord with the correct revolutionary principles of our foreign policy. Our party and government, just as they have done so far, will strengthen in the future too. Their relation of friendship, collaboration, and fraternal mutual aid with the socialist countries with which we are united by our common ideals of socialism and communism, by our common aims and struggle against imperialism and modern revisionism. Today, New Albania represents an important factor of peace and progress in the world. She has implemented and continues to implement in a principled and persistent manner her policy of good neighborhood and of normal relations between states of different social systems based on the principles of non-interference and respect for independence, sovereignty, and territorial integrity. The Albanian people have been and will always be on the side of the peoples and will give their firm support to all the revolutionary forces fighting for national and social liberation, for building a new world free of capitalists and colonialists, to all those fighting for the sacred cause of freedom, independence, and social progress. The U.S. imperialist aggression against the heroic people of Vietnam has been continuing for 10 years now. Even though the U.S. imperialists have actually lost the war on the battlefield and have been discredited before the eyes of the whole world, they have not given up their efforts to force the Vietnamese people to their knees, to enslave them, and to turn their country into a base for new aggressions against the peoples of Southeast and all Asia. Aided by the Soviet revisionists who have exerted all their efforts to save their U.S. allies from their inevitable defeat as a compensation for their hands-off attitude towards the occupation of Czechoslovakia, the U.S. aggressors are now doing everything in their power to achieve at the conference table what they have been unable to achieve by means of arms. But the Vietnamese people, who by their courage, wisdom, and clarity have overcome situations more difficult than the present one, will know how to cope with the frauds of the imperialists and with the pressures of those who pose as their friends but who stab them in their back. They have never been forced to their knees, and their long experience of revolutionary struggle has taught them that complete and sure victory over the aggressors can be achieved through an armed tit-for-tat struggle against their enemies. The Albanian people have been and will always be at one with the just revolutionary liberation struggle of the Vietnamese people. They have supported and will resolutely support their legitimate aspirations to freedom and national independence and the unification of their arbitrarily divided homeland. Czechoslovakia is languishing under the unbearable occupation of the Soviet revisionists. The new occupationists are suppressing by fire and sword the Czechoslovak people's will and efforts to win back their freedom and national independence, which have been trampled underfoot to defend their violated honor and dignity. But Czechoslovakia has become a gangrenous wound for the Soviet revisionist occupationists. She has become the pillory the Brezhnev-Kosygin renegade ruling clique at the Kremlin has been set in at present. The traitorous Czechoslovak rulers and the slavish pledges they have made to the occupationists, the endless visits of marshals and quislings from Prague to Moscow and vice versa, cannot save the situation. The Czechoslovak people are demonstrating to the whole world that neither treachery nor the regime of terror, neither fraud nor emergency laws can stop their resistance, their lawful liberation struggle. Nothing can suppress the Czechoslovak people's ideals of freedom and independence, of revolution and socialism, which they preserve in their hearts. Nothing can quell down their desire and determination to fight by all means and in every way until complete victory has been achieved. Just as we condemn the August 21st occupation of Czechoslovakia, we express with the same determination our solidarity with and our deep fraternal sympathy for the Czechoslovak people. We have been and will always be on their side in the legitimate liberation struggle they are waging against the revisionist occupationists and local traitors. The Albanian people have supported and will support the just struggle of the fraternal Arab people against the Israeli imperialist aggression. Despite the great difficulties that have arisen for the Arab people, not only as a result of the occupation of their territories by Israel and of the continuation of its aggression, but also due to the interference of the U.S. imperialists and the Soviet revisionist imperialists in this conflict, we firmly believe that the final victory will belong to the Arab people. The two imperialist superpowers, seeking to attribute to themselves the right of an arbitrator in the Middle East, are the most savage enemies of the Arab people. They want to introduce the conflict which has broken out in this area into the framework of their bargainings, to divide the spheres of influences, to take possession of the great riches of the Middle East and of the strategic positions of this zone. They are seeking to force upon the Palestinian people, whose armed struggle is an important factor for the restoration of their rights and the liberation of the territories occupied by Israel, and upon all the Arab solutions which run counter to the national interests of the Arab people and which create conditions which would cost them their freedom and independence and place them under the yoke of neocolonialism. The Arab people are able to solve their problems themselves and to give Israel what it deserves. And they can certainly achieve this, relying in the first place on their own forces and on the support of their real friends, the revolutionary peoples, all the anti-imperialist and anti-revisionist forces. Recently, the Soviet revisionists and some West European countries, behind which stands the United States of America, have been making a fuss and drafting plans about a certain so-called European security. That there is need for security for the countries on our continent, this is true. But first it should be explained who should be secured and from whom. The European security, which is demanded by the Soviet revisionists and backed up by the U.S. imperialists, means security for their zones of influence in Europe, security for their military bases, and for the right of their fleets to control the European seacoasts. It means that the peoples of Europe should legally and officially recognize Moscow's and Washington's right to special privileges of an imperialist and colonialist character they enjoy in various European countries. Such a security means, in the final analysis, to preserve and perpetuate in Europe the status quo of the Soviet-U.S. domination, to ensure tranquility on this continent, so that the Soviet revisionists and the U.S. imperialists may have a free hand to act as they choose in Asia, Africa, and everywhere else, to subjugate and enslave the peoples, to strengthen the exploiting capitalist regime both at home and in their respective empires. The peoples of Europe abhor such a and will never accept it. They cannot allow themselves to fall into the diabolical traps which are being laid by the imperialist great powers. They cannot leave their destinies to the mercy of the American and Soviet chiefs. They will not permit themselves to become cannon fodder in carrying out the Soviet-U.S. plans for world domination. They are being threatened by U.S. imperialism and Soviet imperialism, and it is precisely against these that real European security should be directed. The Albanian people, their party and government, who have bravely and in a revolutionary way repulsed frantic imperialist and revisionist attacks, are convinced that despite the efforts they are making, neither U.S. imperialism nor Soviet revisionism, nor both of them, are in a position to change the general course of world history, which will inevitably lead to the complete defeat of imperialism and revisionism, and to the triumph of revolution and socialism in all countries. Under the leadership of our party, the future of our people and of our country is brilliant indeed. Comrades, all the great historic victories achieved by our people during these 25 years are due to the correct, wise, and determined Marxist-Leninist leadership of their glorious Party of Labor. It was the party that aroused the people in the National Liberation War against the fascist occupationists and traitors, that led them to final victory, that made possible the overthrow of the reactionary exploiting classes and the establishment of the people's power in Albania. Thanks to the correct line and resolute stand of the party, the hard-won freedom was preserved and strengthened, all doors were shut to imperialist interference, and the country's independent economic, political, and social development on the road of socialism was ensured. The party stood always on the forefront of the people's gigantic efforts to overcome the terrible backwardness inherited from the past. It correctly directed and led them in their struggle for the building of socialism. To the correct leadership of the Party of Labor, to its unshakable loyalty towards the revolutionary doctrine of the proletariat Marxism-Leninism, is due the failure of the attempts of all the enemies, open and underhand, in particular of the Titoite and Khrushchevite modern revisionists, to turn our people away from the bright road of socialism. The brilliant balance sheet of victories with which our people come to this great jubilee is at the same time a balance sheet of the struggle, work, and activity of the Party of Labor of Albania. That is the most eloquent proof of the always correct Marxist-Leninist line which it has pursued in all the stages. Therefore, our people are linked with their Party of Labor like flesh to bone. They see in the party leadership the source of all their victories, the safeguard of their vital interest and their most reliable guarantee for future victories, for the complete and final triumph of socialism and communism. The strength and invincibility of our people in the face of all the tests of history, however severe they may have been, rests in their monolithic unity around the party. The strength and invincibility of our party in any situation rests in its indissoluble ties with the people, in the boundless support the people give to it. In this steel-like party-people unity rests the strength and invincibility of our socialist homeland in the face of any danger. Let us preserve this militant unity like the apple of our eye, and let us strengthen it evermore. The magnificent victories of these 25 years, particularly the very good results which are being achieved during the fourth five-year plan period, have created a solid foundation for new and still greater successes on the road of the complete construction of the socialist society. An important stride on this road will be made under the new five-year plan, 1971 to 1975, the main objectives of which have, in general lines, been crystallized by the party and the government. The fifth five-year plan will be one of a new qualitative rise in the general development of the country's productive forces. That will be the five-year plan of the development in depth and of the further intensification of industry through the deep processing of minerals and oil, of the extension and strengthening of all its branches, especially of the machine building, chemical, electric power, building materials, and other branches. New branches of industry will be created, such as the industry of iron-nickel metallurgy, the steel production industry, and other branches of the chemical industry which are of exceptional importance to the independent development of our national economy, to a better and more complete exploitation of our natural resources. Thus, the role of industry in the development of all the other economic branches will increase further. This five-year plan will be at the same time the plan of the greatest intensification of agriculture, of the further increase of agricultural and livestock products. It will raise mechanization of agriculture to a higher degree. It will greatly increase labor productivity. It will be the five-year plan of big and numerous irrigation works, especially in the hilly and mountainous areas, so that in the not-distant future, the overwhelming part of the cultivated land area will be brought under irrigation. On the basis of the all-round and rapid development of the socialist economy and of the deepening of the ideological and political revolution, an appreciable rise of the living standards of the working masses will be achieved. Under the fifth five-year plan, another important forward stride will be made on the road of the gradual narrowing of the essential differences between town and countryside, between the working class and the peasantry, between industry and agriculture, between mental and manual work, towards the complete building of the socialist society. The prospects are clear. The future of our people and of our homeland is bright. Today we are already seeing the contours of our happier future taking shape in vivid colors. The magnificent successes we have achieved and the brilliant prospects that are open to our country fill us with revolutionary optimism and increase tenfold our faith in our own forces. Inspired by this wonderful situation, under the tried and tested, unwavering Marxist-Leninist leadership of the glorious Party of Labor, let us always proudly hold high the red banner of revolution and socialism in our beloved homeland and lead it forward, always forward, towards the new peaks of socialism and communism. Long live the glorious 25th anniversary of the liberation of the homeland and of the triumph of the People's Revolution. May our wonderful people, who are marching fearlessly on the road of socialism, live in centuries. Glory to the Party of Labor of Albania, the beloved leader and organizer of all the victories of our people. Glory to all-conquering Marxism-Leninism. Reproduced from the Zeri Apopolit Daily, date November 29, 1969. NB subtitles by the Zeri Apopolit Daily. Contents.